Has this ever happened to you? You're up at the NVZ, you're working the rally. A couple shots later, pop up, slammed at your partner. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the most feared events that happens on a pickleball court, the pop-up. All aboard! Today's video is going to be one of the point breakdowns that we're well known for. If you've watched our pickleball point or game breakdown videos in the past, then you know what to expect and you know how much you can learn from these point breakdown videos. If you're new to these kind of videos, sit back and enjoy. Make sure you subscribe below for more great pickleball content. In this video, we're going to focus on movement and shot selection decisions that resulted in the pop-up, allowing the team on the far side of the screen to slam it, ending the rally. If you want more tips on how to reduce your pop-ups, make sure you join CJ Johnson and I for our free webinar on how to reduce pop-ups in your game. I'll link above and below to the free webinar. If you're watching this video after we've given the webinar, the links will take you to a replay of the webinar where you can find out more tips on how to reduce the pop-ups in your game. Before we break the point down, let's take a look at the whole rally. This is from the 2017 USA Pickleball Association Nationals, a 4.5 women's match, game 1. And this is a bronze medal match. No criticism is intended of any of the players on the court. We appreciate their efforts out there. So let's go ahead and break it down. The first thing I want to focus on is shot selection. What I want to focus on here is the player who's up at the non-volley zone line. The first shot that she elects to hit here kind of puts him in a bad spot. So here you have your third shot. This player steps back here. As you can see, the player is turned. So her shoulders are turned to the middle, basically almost like her back is towards the player opposite her. But she chooses to hit a drive ball down the middle here. Generally speaking, these areas here, like high and in the middle here, or what I would consider red areas or areas that you really want to try and stay away from. And then you see what happens is because the ball goes up into that zone, that allows the player cross court from the player who hit the ball to basically slam down on it. As soon as that player can slam down on it, it puts the players on this side closest to us in a really bad spot because now the players on this side are on their heels and having to dig balls. Even though the pop-up and the slam is what ultimately ended the rally, you can look at things like this during rallies, these kind of shot selection decisions that are made during rallies that then snowball into ultimately resulting in the end being a pop-up and a slam. But the pop-up and the slam usually is occasioned by something that occurred before. In this case, the shot down the middle, high and in the middle, allowing the other team to slam down on it, creates a movement situation as well for the team on this side, ultimately resulting in the pop-up and the slam. Next, let's look at how the shot selection puts the team on this side at a disadvantage in terms of its positioning and its movement. This is a really important part of the game, obviously. So what you can see is at the point that the player at the non-volley zone line on this side, on the left, decides to hit the ball down the middle, the players on the other side of the net have taken the non-volley zone line. They're up at the non-volley zone line. There's no space between their feet and the line. They're taking the best position possible on the court on their side. The players on this side have given up some space, and there is space between the non-volley zone line and their feet, space which ultimately becomes critical in how the pop-up is developed and the loss of the rally by the team closest to us. It's important to recognize, critical I would say, to recognize that the serve team, which is the team farthest from us, the team on the other side of the net, has now gained the advantage. The return team, which is the team nearest to us on this side of the net, is now on its heels and has lost its advantage. The script effectively has been flipped, where the serve team now has a positional advantage relative to the return team. And understanding the relative positional advantages or disadvantages of the serve and return team is really critical to sound pickleball play. And it's something that we spend a lot of time on inside the VI pickleball community, is explaining the differences between the serve and return side of the ball so that our players can maximize their results when they're on the court by understanding situations such as this one where the return team gives up its positional advantage to the serve team and puts itself in a position to lose the rally, giving up a point to their opponents. Let's look at what the player on the other side sees here. To her right or our left, what she sees is a lot of space. So what she does is she decides to dink it over into that space to take advantage of the fact that the player opposite her is off of the NVZ line or the non-volley zone line, giving space for her to hit into. In a second, we'll look to see what would have happened had the player on the left been up at the non-volley zone line at the time this ball was hit. But for now, what this shot does is it pulls the player to her left. She lunges over to her left, is out of balance, and being out of balance there is what ultimately results in the pop-up that sets the ball up for the slam. Let's rewind this for a second and see what would have happened had the player on the left been up at the non-volley zone line at the time that this shot was hit. This shot is sufficiently high that if the player on the left had been up at the non-volley zone line, the player could have taken advantage of openings both on her left and on her right. Her opponents are crowding the middle of their court, leaving opportunities on the down the line shot and also the cross court shot here that the player could have taken advantage of had the player been up at the line. Let's take a minute to look at the play of her partner, the player on the right with her back to us here. What I want to focus on here is her court positioning and how she addresses the slam coming her way. Her court positioning, I believe, is very good. She is in the middle of the court here, basically covering the middle of the court, the most sensitive part of the court that needs to be covered. She has also taken a little bit of step off the line here. That is okay when you're subject to attack. When you're being attacked, backing off the line a little bit here to give yourself more time is perfectly fine. I also like the way she presents her paddle out in front of her. She's ready to defend. She tracks the ball well. It just comes off her paddle a little weird. So she does the best she can to defend here off the slam. I would say she should give herself a little bit of a break here. She seems to be a little down afterwards about not being able to defend that shot, but it really was a difficult slam for her to defend. It would not be a point breakdown without a little extra credit at the end. Maybe you noticed this at the beginning of the rally. Maybe you did not. It's really important to hit your returns of serve deep. In this case, the player on the right, the returner, hits a short return of serve. That allows the opponent on the other side to come in and have an easier third shot and get to the NVZ line sooner rather than later. You want to make sure your returns of serve are deep to avoid this sort of advantage or giving up of an advantage to the serve team. As I hopefully explained well during the point breakdown, there were two main areas of focus or of issue that caused the pop-up in this point. One, shot selection. Two, movement. The two takeaways that I want to give you that you can take away from this video for the next time you play are, number one, hit your shots with intentionality. Know where and why you're hitting the ball to a certain spot. And number two is make sure you're hitting from a solid foundation. Try and avoid reaching too far in front of you and losing balance when you hit the ball. And remember, for more tips on how to reduce pop-ups in your game, you can check out our free VI Pickleball webinar at the link above and below. Stay well out there.